Hey, what's up guys, Aarava here, and welcome back to an episode of my F1 2019 career mode, episode number 20 today for the USA Grand Prix. If you guys did miss the previous one, the Mexican GP, then be sure to go check that one out before you see this one, a very entertaining one to say the least, with a first time failure of a turbocharger in the race, so you can see how that went. But here we are then at COTA. It's going to be a very intriguing one to see, because it has been a very difficult circuit for myself personally in the last game, F1 2018, so we'll see how it goes in 2019. Tyre wear will be an issue, I'm guessing, as well as just how consistent the AI are usually around here. In terms of the R&D, we have that minor upgrade on the chassis side of things, but that's still going to not really make much of an impact there. We're still below Racing Point, Renault and Williams on paper now, but we've still been getting the results. That's the important thing. So hoping to carry forward that positive mindset and that fourth place, that, you know, best position I've got so far so many times. Again, fourth place. Hopefully we can take that and bring it into this race and try and match that. Obviously will be the max we're hoping for here. But let's just get into qualifying then and say we do on Saturday.
It's time for today's qualifying session to begin here in the United States. Welcome to the Circuit of the Americas. I want to talk briefly about the strategy in these qualifying sessions. Anthony Davidson, how can a driver adjust their approach to gain those critical extra tenths of a second?
Well, qualifying isn't about adjusting your approach necessarily. It's more about trying to repeat a low fuel run that you've practiced prior to this session. You're looking for perfection on the lap, and that's hard to achieve if you're trying something new. There are some variables that can stand in your way, however. Track position or unexpected yellow flags, for example. Coupled with ever-changing track conditions, it's important to be out there at the right moment. But as a driver, you have to try and ignore these distractions and just keep your mind focused on that one perfect lap.
Alright, so getting into Q1 then, very overcast conditions right now, but there's no rain forecast for Saturday, at least not on the actual indicator on the email, but you never know what the weather system can turn up here on the F1 2019 game, so we'll have to see about that. But very gloomy right now, so the track might be a little bit colder than we're hoping for, so perhaps that might affect the lap times and whatnot, but we're going to be hoping to get through on one set of tyres here. But already I can tell you that turn one wasn't amazing, and then through the S section you can see maybe visually as well, not committing as much as I maybe wanted to in that first sector, just, you know, trying to still get to grips with the car and trying to suss out how aggressive I can go with this machine around the Circuit of the Americas. But across the line for now, it's P12 ahead of Raikkonen, who's in P13. So that was okay, I guess, to match our teammate, but I knew I had to go out again, and alas we do as we get to the last minute of qualifying then, and already you can see how much time I've gained on the exit, nearly a whole tenth just on one corner there in Sector 1. But we come through into the last sector, we set a purple first sector, green second sector, we've gained a heap of time there in now the last sector, up into 7 tenths nearly gained on that first lap as we lock up a little bit, chasing after Devin Butler in the Toro Rosso also on his flying lap. We're down to P13 right now. Raikkonen has improved enough to go up into the top 10, I believe, so we're going to try and match him at least and show where the true pace of the car is. We swing through the last two corners then, we're going to be nearly gaining about 8 tenths. This will be towards the end of the lap, maybe a little bit of a lock up on the left front again on the last corner, but not too much understeer as we go through the exit across the line, and it's going to be P6 then. Raikkonen ends up in P10, so we found a heap of time compared to him in Q1, but unfortunately we did use 2 sets of soft tyres in Q1 to get ourselves through, because I really was not confident of getting through into Q2 on that one run. We're already down to P13. I could just kind of see it happening again, where we fast forward the time and we go down the order and we're knocked out of Q1, so didn't want to take the risk, but it means we only have this one flying lap in Q2 now to do the job. And it was, well, the start of this lap certainly felt more like that first lap I did in Q1 than it did the second one in terms of commitment and aggression there, and locking up quite a fair bit in the last sector you're about to see, with a bit of understeer, a lot more understeer kicking in for some reason in Q2 compared to Q1. I don't know, it's not any darker or anything like that, but I don't know, the car just felt a little bit worse there. You can see going wide and then just having to go a little bit easy on the exit, not to go too wide and extend the track there, and through the last corner, big lock up, go way wide, a lot of understeer, and that loses us a decent amount of time. And so across the line, P9 it is at the time, and then it's eventually going to be P10 on the cusp of the top 10 shootout in Q3. Daniel Ricciardo, though, on a much better lap, and he didn't set a great one in that first one. He has 2 runs, obviously, and he's going to now bump us down, unfortunately, into P11. Raikkonen stays put in P12, and so by the end of the session, it will be both us Alfa Romeo Racing cars out of Q2. So at least that's where the car is, so I can't be too disheartened by that. Myself and Raikkonen quite closely contested, actually, so nice to see there, but I would have loved to try to make it into Q3 Q3, just about there, but just got edged out. You can see both Williams cars once again making it through there, along with the two Williams cars. At least we outqualified the Racing Point cars, which on paper they're technically better than us in the R&D chart there. But it does mean we have a free choice of tyres, so let's not get too bogged down about that. Like Mexico, we could try something where we can start on the mediums maybe and try and capitalise on other people having tyre wear very early on the soft tyres, because obviously they will have to now start on these tyres if they got into Q3. So it's not all doom and gloom. And USA, like I said, it was a bit of a difficult circuit in F1 2018, so I'd rather actually have a bit more of an open strategy just to kind of suss out and see how the AI are and see what we can do around here. So let's go to the grid then Sunday and let's try and get some points.
In 2012, America's on-again, off-again love affair with Formula One finally seemed to settle down with the completion of this wonderful racing facility here in Texas. Since then, we've been treated to some incredible races, including, of course, that classic wet-dry championship decider of 2015. It's the Circuit of the Americas then, situated 14 miles outside the great city of Austin. This is the 3.6-mile lap with 20 corners, 10 each to the left and to the right, and top speeds of around 200 miles per hour. Overtaking opportunities are available into turns 1 and 12, especially with that rear wing DRS wide open. With the Grand Prix nearly upon us, Anthony Davidson is by my side once again to offer his perspective. Now, I want to talk to you about Valtteri Bottas. Everything's on the line here today and the title hangs in the balance. So how do you think they'll be coping with all that pressure?
By trying not to think about the result too much. The worst thing you can do in this situation is think about all the what-ifs. What if I get hit going into turn 1? What if I get a penalty? What if I finish outside the points? If you let any of those kind of worries get to you, you can't focus on the job, so staying in the right mindset will be critical today.
With the race minutes away from starting, here's what today's grid rundown looks like. Sebastian Vettel has a clear track ahead of him today. He starts in pole position, and Lewis Hamilton completes the front row. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Bottas, Verstappen, Sergio Perez, and Ricciardo, Weber, Russell, Leclerc, and Nico Hülkenberg. The engineer, Raikkonen, Pierre Gasly, they've taken a grid penalty, and Stroll, Sainz, Albon, Lando Norris, and Kevin Magnussen. Grosjean and Devon Butler starts from the back of the grid. And now it's time to head down to the track.
Right, so we move up one spot on the grid thanks to Pierre Gasly with an engine penalty of some sort. So we're P11 and P12 respectively for myself and Kimi Raikkonen. Strategy-wise then, it's a lot like Mexico actually. So it's very similar so far this episode in terms of being knocked out and not making through to Q3, having an open tyre strategy, starting on the mediums it would appear like the default strategy is. And I'll agree with that. 2 mediums and 1 set of softs. It worked out really well in Mexico. Gave us a big advantage actually towards the end of the first stint when everyone's soft tyres really went off the cliff. I don't know if it's going to be a similar sort of thing of going off the cliff here at USA. Maybe they'll keep intact a little bit more, but either way, I like the idea of being on the fastest tyre again on the lowest fuel right at the end of this race. It's a little bit gloomy out there, but no rain forecast, just kind of cloudiness there, so that shouldn't be much of a factor. So we just go out there and try and basically do the same thing in Mexico and try and keep our nose clean there, try and use our medium tyres towards the end of each stint, basically when we're kind of out of sync with everyone else in the top 10 ahead of us there, and try and bring home some very decent points, hopefully. Maybe try and match that P4. And so with that, we'll go to 5 red lights then here for the USA Grand Prix here in Austin, Texas, the third last round of this 2019 season. 5 lights are out and we're underway. It's a pretty poor start from us actually compared to Hülkenberg and Raikkonen, who's on my left-hand side there. He's alongside us now to turn 1. We're going to try and jostle him for position, but he dives down the inside of about 5 cars there, and Raikkonen's up into P7 momentarily on the outside there. We've been pushed down to P12. We're on the outside of Pierre Gasly. Have to kind of brake and kind of stop ourselves from going to the back of Hülkenberg there, who nearly brake checks us into the S section as he fought Lucas Weber, and so we're back up into P11. But in all that, Raikkonen now has jumped 4 places ahead of me there, and he's ahead of George Russell, I think, in that second Williams car. And once again, Russell doing the better job of the 2 Williams cars there, kind of really showing that Williams really is there to stay in the top 10. Right now it's a Ferrari that leads the way. I think that's Sebastian Vettel, because Leclerc is struggling at the moment in P9, so Vettel leads the way, and it's a misery for his teammate here, who's only just about managing to stay ahead of Weber as we overtake Lucas, our former F2 teammate teammate from last season, obviously, as we both graduated up here, but we're up into P10 now, and we're going to try now look at the back of Leclerc maybe, but we have to do some defensive driving potentially, because there is Lucas in the mirrors, but now it's a huge dive bomb from the Hulkenberg in the Racing Board car out of nowhere. He's made an overtake on us, he's made an overtake on Weber, and he's just absolutely sent it. That was the definition of sending it. He even broke the bollard. He sent it that hard there, and so it was a bit of a debatable move actually, as he smashed the bollard off there to make the overtake, but he's done it nonetheless, so kudos to him. To be fair, it's always nice to see an AI that aggressive. But here we go now on the outside of the double right-hander there, and it's going to be a very fine margin, but a very lovely overtake on Hulkenberg to get back the position and get back up into P10 as sweet as you want on the left-hand side there of that double right-hander. But I mean, I'm still reveling in that absolute amazing move he made. He overtook Weber and then also sent one on me. But now we move on to lap number 2, and we can look ahead of us and look at that. The two Renaults, Perez and Ricciardo, side by side there in the stadium section, not doing themselves or the cars behind them any favours here, as they're still neck and neck through the double right-hander, and so they slow down Russell, Raikkonen and Leclerc major time, to the point where I've caught up to them now, and so it's a 1, 2, 3, about a 6-car train, I want to say. I think that is, if my maths are correct, 6-car train there, as we move on to lap number 3. We're right up the back of Leclerc. Can we make an overtake on the Ferrari car? He really is struggling here, Charles Leclerc, so could we try and send one and catch him napping? I don't know, looks like he might actually make a move on Russell. Yes, he will. We're going to go for the dive bomb down the inside. We try to follow him through, doesn't work out then, but now we move on to the back straight here. The two Renaults side by side, 3 wide in fact, actually, with Kimi Raikkonen there, so brilliant racing this is. But in the background there, still behind George Russell and Charles Leclerc, so it's crucial we get past Russell at least on this next lap into the last sector. Make a huge dive to the inside of the fellow Brit, and we also make some contact with Leclerc whilst doing it there, because the brake force was so hard there that we nearly caught Leclerc napping a little bit on that double right-hander as we enter the stadium section, and so we're up into P9 then. And so now can we look at the back of the Ferrari car once more? This time round he's got to try and overtake my teammate, so maybe that won't be such an easy overtake compared to Russell on that previous lap, on lap 2. But you can see they're getting a bit of understeer now as the dirty air is kicking in a little bit off the back of the Ferrari car. So again, it is kind of crucial as well to get past Leclerc as fast as we can. And here we go, we've got a good run actually, got a mega run off the last corner there, but he's got DRS himself, so he might again try and make a move to Raikkonen, but we're going to have none of it. Down the inside into turn 1, get very close to Raikkonen there, make some contact in fact, I think. And on the team radio, I think my engineer is saying that we might have lost a bit of our end plate there on the front wing. It was very, very close, and so I didn't feel anything on my wheel on the force feedback there, but visually speaking, I think we might have some damage. If we look on the indicator on the heads-up display on the bottom right there, you can see the front wing on the left-hand side there is slightly lime green, which doesn't make any sense actually if you think about it, because Raikkonen tapped my right-hand side, but there you go. So we've got a little bit of damage. That definitely is going to affect us a tiny bit. Remember back to the Monaco Grand Prix earlier on this season, where I didn't remember where we broke our front wing or tapped it somewhere, but it was actually lime green and eventually started to really affect us in the corners. So that will be the same thing here. So that's a bit unfortunate, and so we're going to have to try and drive through that understeer, and probably we'll have to think about making a front wing change when we make our first pit stop. But for now, we're just thinking about trying to defend against Leclerc as he goes around the outside. Meanwhile, Raikkonen is making moves and is overtaking Ricciardo ahead of us, but we slide through and drift through that corner and defend against Leclerc successfully and keep up in that P8. I'm sure he's got some sort of issue, or his tyres just absolutely shot from Q2. I don't know what it is, because his teammate at the moment I think is out in the lead, and he's here wallowing in P9 as we try and go around the outside now for P7 of Ricciardo, and it's another drift through that left-hander. It seems like we're taking some inspiration from Ken Block through that corner, as we're just making the same similar sort of driving exit there, and we get the move done though either way into P7, but lockups galore now. So if I was hoping to keep these tyres in check, I don't think I'm doing such a great job right now, but obviously the understeer now from the front wing is kicking in, and that's making me kind of lock up, because you're losing some downforce also in the brake zone as well, as you try and rotate the car left and right, especially if you're trying to rotate it left, with the end plate on the left being obviously the one that's going to try and help us turn in there. And so that's definitely going to be a bit of a factor. And you can see now on lap 6 in sector 3, just pretty much every corner we're locking up. It's a very technical section, and you need a really good front end. That's just not that's something we just don't have anymore now with that contact we made with Raikkonen there. So that's a little bit unfortunate. But now we move on to lap number 7 in a straight line though. We have no issue overtaking Sergio Perez there, so we've done enough to keep up behind him and overtake him into P6. So despite this issue, we're driving around it and we're doing a pretty good job, because obviously it's not like we've lost a major chunk. We've not lost a massive amount of, you know, cascade elements or a whole end plate. We just lost a little bit, I guess, of carbon fibre there on the front wing. So lime green, as long as you compensate for it and you kind of turn in early, you can still actually get the car around in a decent amount of pace there. So that's exactly what's happening right now. And we actually got some okay pace still to try and chase after maybe Raikkonen, our teammate, who potentially could be struggling with some tyre wear maybe. And we are indeed closing up now as we get to the back straight of lap number 9. We're within DRS. We've got rich mix to use and overtake mode. So here we go. Should be a pretty simple pass, and it will be the lap where I maybe consider coming for a pit stop here. So this will be a very useful overtake to make before the pit stop phase. We're up into P2 now because a lot of people have already pit off those soft tyres there. Sebastian Vettel, he was leading the Grand Prix and he still leads it on medium tyres. So I never actually noticed that. Vettel qualified into Q3 on the mediums there, so that's maybe a good reason why then he was looking pretty good and handy at the very start of this Grand Prix compared to the Mercedes cars and Red Bulls, as I'm pretty sure all 4 of them qualified on soft tyres into Q3 on the red wall tyres, whereas Vettel's continued on, set the fast lap of the Grand Prix. So you can see that kind of backs up my point that this free tyre choice actually works out maybe really well for us there. And, you know, we've seen it visually. I mean, we've had some pretty decent pace. So here we come now, though, on lap number 9. The reason I've come in on lap 9, probably maybe about 2 laps earlier than the default that we planned for on the strategy screen before the race, is simply because of that front wing change. I feel like hopefully if I can get into some clean air, have that front wing change and try and compensate for that with an undercut, we can try and, you know, stay with it basically. But right now it's going to be a bit painful. We sit here now and that's going to be so long to change that front wing, but it needs to be done. I could have technically maybe not changed the front wing. If I left it on auto on the heads-up display on the bottom right, I don't think my team would have actually changed it for me, because they would have thought I could just drive through it. But I didn't fancy compensating for that understeer for the entire Grand Prix like we did with Monaco, because also at Monaco we broke that wing a little bit later into the Grand Prix. Right now it's early days. I don't want to drive another 18 laps with understeer, even more understeer than we already have in this Alfa Romeo car. So that's why I've changed the wing. But here we go now, having to re-overtake George Russell then on lap number 10 there, up into P13. But to be fair, you can see up ahead of us, Sergio Perez is only just there. So to say we lost about 5 seconds in the pit stop there, Perez not too far ahead of us. So I think we should actually be okay with the Raikkonen, you know, with the tyre wear for him, and then obviously our undercut. I don't think we should be too bad here, actually. And as you can see on lap 11, we have a chance to not only overtake Sergio Perez, but also Lucas Weber going slowly there. Perez goes for the move. It's 2 wide there. We're going to try and make it 3 wide down the inside of Weber. He locks up there in the middle. Perez on the outside gets it cleanly done. We squeeze out Weber on the right-hand side, but he keeps his nose in there and gets a great brake zone there on the right-hand side and gets it to the inside. We tried to brake early to try and get a switchback move on him. Didn't work out, but instead we dive it to the inside, lock up on the front left. We bang the front right tyre to front left tyre, and so no love lost between our former two teammates here in F2. But round the outside we go, and it's going to be a great overtake in the end. And so overall, pretty damn decent scrap there, and just about maybe on the fine edge margin of being acceptable in terms of the tyre banging there, and just about enough respect given between myself and Lucas as we move up into P9. Then across the line we'll overtake some more cars in the pit lane, one of them being Kimi Raikkonen. I think it will be. Yes, it is. So we've jumped Raikkonen and we've stayed ahead of him despite that 5-second penalty of having to change the front wing. And Raikkonen, just about gets to the inside of Weber there. They're side by side down the hill. I think Raikkonen will just about get that up into P9, but he will now be a bit susceptible to being passed by the 2 Williams cars of Russell and Weber. Weber down the inside, and actually, I've only just noticed there, Raikkonen has some damage on the front wing. Look at that, on the right-hand side there, there's no end plate. There usually is a white end plate with a shell symbol on there. Nothing there. So I think, you know, when we look back behind us, when we're on board with ourselves, and we saw Raikkonen just about get into turn 1 side by side with Weber, I think he made enough contact with his sidepod or whatever it was to break that end plate off. So that's actually major now. That's going to ruin his entire race here. And so you can see myself there closing up to Sergio Perez, but the gap has just exponentially grown to Raikkonen now, because he's out there with even more understeer than I was. You know, my understeer was nothing now compared to what he's probably experiencing in the car, as we now try and go 3 wide potentially with the Renaults. No, Perez down the inside of Ricciardo. We have to go in a bit of a tighter line and try and get a better exit down the hill, get the power down a little bit earlier than Ricciardo. And here we go, swooping round down the hill into the S section there, the copycat of Magnussen Beckett, and we get it done up into P7 on Ricciardo, and then in a straight line, easy job it'll be on lap 13 to get Sergio Perez, fake to the right, go to the left, shut DRS down Down the inside we go, and we're going to get it just about the apex there. Squeeze the Mexican out, and we're up into P6 of this Grand Prix. But meanwhile, Raikkonen is in pretty horrendous times here. Here he goes, being overtaken by the Williams car down the inside. I think that's, is that Russell? I think Weber's already passed him. Yeah, that's Russell. So Weber's already overtaken him, and so that's the second Williams car to overtake him. So it's going to be a pretty horrendous Grand Prix now for Raikkonen. I'm surprised he's not pit, to be honest, because that's quite a hefty bit of damage there. But basically, he's going to be limping around. He's got that Red Bull of Gasly closing up. He's got other cars behind him. He's going to have a very tough time even getting points, I think, at this rate. But we now move on to lap 18 for ourselves in our story of this race. We've got 10 laps to go. We're still going on this second set of medium tyres. Vettel has already pit, I think this is, for his last stint, so he's overtaken us on fresh tyres there, as well as Bottas, but Bottas has jumped Vettel, and so he's ahead in this Grand Prix. And if you paid attention to the intro screens for the Grand Prix on Sunday here in this video, you would have seen that Bottas technically can actually win the championship here at USA if everything goes his way. We'll have to see about that and check out with that at the very end of the Grand Prix. But we move on to lap 20 then, 8 laps to go in this Grand Prix, and I'm planning to come in on this lap. My engineers want me to as well. Verstappen closes up quite rapidly as my tyres go off the cliff, and he's going to come down the inside there, be very aggressive with me. Not needed there, Verstappen. Not needed. You're well down the inside. I don't know why you went wide, but you did, and you've tapped off front wing, and so we come into the pit lane, and we're going to go onto a set of soft tyres then, but just a very unnecessary bit of overtaking aggression there from Verstappen. But hey-ho, we come in now, and we should have a pretty clean pit lane. No one's going to come in with us, I don't think, because not a lot of people actually did this strategy of medium, and soft tyres. So here we come. No front wing change for us this time round, thankfully, so no 5-second penalty this time round. Onto a set of red wall soft tyres, and we should come out, hopefully, ahead of everyone we're fighting, you know, the 2 Renaults, the 2 Williams cars, and still be in that next, what was around P5, I think, P5 position, because Gasly is had a very torrid time. He's still behind a Williams car there, so basically best of the rest is P5 in this Grand Prix. But you can see, oh no, you can see actually, look at the heads-up display, look at the front right there on the front wing. We've got another lime front wing because of the contact we made with Verstappen there. So twice now in this Grand Prix, we're having to drive with some understeer in this car, even more so than we already have, because of a little, subtle contact we made with other cars. That's a bit unfortunate. So we're now P5 on lap 25, 3 laps to go in this Grand Prix, and I believe the pecking order right now is Valtteri Bottas in the lead of this Grand Prix. Hamilton is actually out of this Grand Prix with a DNF mechanical failure. It was on the triple right-hander. Then you've got, I think, Sebastian Vettel in second place, Leclerc third, Verstappen fourth, myself fifth, ahead of Ricciardo, and Perez is very close behind Ricciardo, actually. They're actually side by side, I think, in this sector, and they're both ahead of Gasly there. So there's a bit of a 2 Renault, 1 Red Bull fight going on right at the end of this Grand Prix, but it's not going to affect us, and actually it kind of helps us out there and gives me a bit of breathing room as we come through now. Valtteri Bottas has won the Grand Prix. I don't believe, though, he's actually clinched the World Championship. That will go on to the Brazilian Grand Prix, I think, still, and we're going to come home in a pretty damn decent P5, all things considered, with our front wing issues.
That's the end of the race. We'll see you in Parc Fermé.
Tell me, Ant, how did they manage to achieve this win?
I'd say it was down once again to good, consistent driving, nailing the corners, working to the track conditions, and perfecting the team's strategies. They got all of these things right today, and the results speak for themselves.
So after a magnificent race, we can now see the drivers making their way to the podium. Once again, it's the Silver Arrows who take top spot, a well-earned victory for Mercedes.
Good day today. Let's have your take on it. Judging from today's race, it must be pretty hard to fend off Devon when he wants to pass.
Yeah, I'm sure some of the other drivers might find it hard to pass him, but of course that's not an issue for me. I've already beaten him once to the F2 Championship.
Did you struggle to get through all that traffic today?
No, obviously the power advantage was really good. Obviously we had some issues with aero, but the straight line speed was biblical down that back straight, so I've got to compliment the power unit.
You're surpassing all expectations. Can anything or anyone stop you?
Gonna go with a bit of a cocky answer here on the top right, on the top hand side there, that unless there's an immovable object, no.
You had a bit of contact today. Who was at fault there?
And I'm actually surprised they picked up on this specific incident here, but yeah, fair play, there was a bit of contact there, but I think it's no one's at fault. It was a racing incident, I tried to go down the inside. Raikkonen cut off the line a little bit as well.
Appreciate your time.
And so overall, don't think there was any need to kind of, be a bit of showmanship there and kind of, put him at fault. Thought it would be sportsmanship there with him with that final answer. But there we are then, P5. Really unfortunate, though, with the contact Raikkonen had with Weber midway through that Grand Prix that had that front wing damage, because his fast lap of the Grand Prix was better than mine. So Raikkonen had much better pace than I did that entire Grand Prix. He just basically just got nerfed out of that race because of that front wing damage. So it could have been a really strong double points paying position, probably like P5, P6, I would say. But alas, those things happen sometimes. Obviously, I could have had that same thing with Raikkonen. I could have easily lost my entire end play with that damage, or with Verstappen either. So, it's just a bit of pot luck at the end of the day with things like that. But for us in the Drivers' Championship, all good. Still ahead of Gasly there. And in the Constructors, still in a solid P4. And just overall, very decent USA Grand Prix. I think that could have been a lot worse for us as a team. And for myself, obviously, going into that one, not knowing how the AI were going to be this year on this year's game, I thought we had some pretty decent pace, actually, there. But I think, obviously, we got helped out a little bit with other people being nerfed out of the Grand Prix, and then, obviously, just clean air and other people fighting behind us. The two Renaults, Ricciardo and Perez, were literally hammering Tong that entire last stint ahead of Gasly, and so that basically just gave me so much just easy breathing room just to kind of relax at the very end of that Grand Prix. But as we move on to the end of the episode, then, in terms of upgrades, I thought about maybe the engine side of things, but then I thought, what, I feel like getting to the end of this chassis tree, we've got that ultimate chassis upgrade right at the end there, and to get to that, we have to do this final minor upgrade. So I thought, what, let's go for it. We might not be able to actually afford that ultimate upgrade right at the end of the season, but if we could, that could be a mega upgrade to do over the winter break potentially there, and try and jump our car up even more so. And I know from last year and the year before, chassis, lightness is a very good feature to have, especially against AI cars in career mode, in terms of having to be able to maneuver the car left and right very nimbly mid-corner for sure. But that has been the USA Grand Prix. Decent one for us. Not so for Kimi, but as I said, those things happen sometimes. So if you did enjoy the episode, then guys, be sure to smash that like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you are new around here, subscribe for weekly full-on content. I've been Alfa. Have a good day. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.